Okay.
Just relax and take a deep
Okay,
breath.
we're going. So, welcome to another episode of the Magic Box Talk Show. The talk show that asks you the question, what's in the box? And so today we have, as guests in our talk show, we have Jonathon Chorn and Lisa Silas.
Hey guys. How's it going?
So Jonathon and Lisa and myself, actually, all three of us have something in common, which is that we're all artists. And you can see some examples of some of their beautiful work around here.
All the way down.
Yeah, all kinds of different. So Jonathon did the sculptures, and Lisa, you did all the two-dimensional stuff, the painting and
A
drawing.
little bit of both. A little bit of both.
Jonathon did some
This
two-dimensional.
first one over here, this is Lisa's piece over here.
Uh-huh.
The original was given to me on demand by myself, so she didn't sell the original.
Okay.
And this one over here is a print of a piece I did in Florence in Italy.
Oh, nice.
And that's a 5-week figure drawing, that one.
Took you 5 weeks to make it.
Yeah, the program with the model, whether it was sculpture or drawing, was a 5-week pose, 3 hours a day, 5 days a week in front of the model.
Okay.
And then so was this piece over here, which is Lisa's piece.
It's a really nice piece right here.
This one's mine.
That's yours.
This one's Jonathan.
This is John. Okay, so the base relief here is Jonathon, and the sculptural bust is Lisa. Excellent.
And then the painting is our son that Lisa did.
Nice. All right. Well, as you all can see, there's some very talented artists, and so now, both of you live at the Tannery Art Center.
Yes.
That's correct.
And which is a very interesting project that is relatively new. I mean, the building's been up about 2 years now.
It's been 3 years. We're going on our 4th year.
4th year. Wow,
Yeah.
it's been around that long. And so, for people who don't know, the Tannery Art Center is a kind of artist colony. There's studio lofts, and most of the people that live there are artists. And there's galleries. There's the Santa Cruz Ballet, I think, is going to move into the...
Yes, they're about $2 million short on starting that project, and I think it was $10 million total.
Okay.
And they have the $8 million, and I think they may borrow the $2 million if they're not able to get the funds for it, because they'll borrow money from the bank to get that going. So that will have the theater and the ballet together, and that's the last project. And I think in connection with that, they'll have the granite. What's that place called next door? The granite. It's that.
I don't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, there's
a property next door.
Yeah, there's a big property next door. Yeah, where they have stone, stuff for construction and stuff like that. They would need to move that out so that we could have parking for there, because there's a shortage of parking for the space already.
There's a shortage of parking in Santa Cruz in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, certainly out there. Okay, so...
And the tannery for the first phase was where people moved in to live in the community that we live in.
Yeah.
And that was a real interesting challenge, to live in a regular house in a neighborhood, and then to move into a community of artists only. That's the only thing we had in common was art, and we were all walks of life from all different parts.
Oh, interesting.
And so we had to learn to
People
live
of all kinds of different backgrounds.
all different backgrounds, and we learned to live together with, the thread of art as our common denominator. So it was challenging, and it took time for us all to develop trust, develop relationships, and now you find family within that and support.
I just wanted to touch on what you're saying, like how we're relearning community, and being in the space is like a re-education for our society, which has been very in the direction of being devoid of communication and community. It's just, if the way the government's made money is by keeping people divided, and then everybody has to pay more by keeping us divided, and they government gets more money by doing that. And this project kind of installs a reintroduction into community, which I just think is very important. Kind of.
Yeah, the community. I mean, there's so many levels of it being helpful, and it challenges you, it stretches you, it makes you go, okay, I have a completely different idea than my neighbor, but we have to learn to get along and live together. And so, you allow for being more open and less judgmental, and you do change. You do find that you are more accepting. And so, and then you develop relationships that you wouldn't have had, say, if you lived in a house in a neighborhood. You do find friendships in neighborhoods, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
And but there is something, if your neighbor's suffering next door,
you might not even know.
Yeah, but in the tannery, you know if your neighbor's having a hard time.
Oh,
okay?
wow. Yeah, yeah.
And and we come to each other, and we ask for help.
Well, it goes
support.
to show how much the way that people end up behaving is in a lot of ways like a function of the space, environment that they're in. Contrasting a neighborhood with a bunch of houses that are very architecturally individual, spaced apart from each other, whereas the tannery is kind of a big long building with a hallway down the middle, and it's just sort of one loft after another. You're kind of really sardined in with everybody else, and so I imagine it leads to a lot of interaction in the halls. It reminds me of the story of Steve Jobs when they built the new headquarters for the Pixar animation company. He had insisted on what was it? I think it was the bathroom and it ended up being the bathroom. They tried to put the gift shop out in the courtyard, and they finally figured out that the one thing that would, if they put the bathroom out in the courtyard, then everybody, people that work in all different departments, would end up interacting with each other.
Okay.
And that ended up being more healthy for the company, that instead of only communicating with the people in your department, you ended up communicating with people on all different levels of the company. And that's very much in contrast. I think a lot of American culture emphasizes sort of the rugged individualism, which is very much diametrically opposed to the idea of a tight-knit community where everybody supports each other.
Yeah. That's very, and it allows for more connection and creativity and communication amongst the different individual groups. And there is collaboration going on. And now the second phase coming in is the Tannery Artist Studios, which is,
Now, how is that distinct from the Tannery Art Center?
So the tannery, we have the lofts, which is where people live. Then we have the studios, which is where people work.
Okay.
And those are market price. So, they're, and we just got a space there too.
Okay.
And then the third phase will be what you were talking about with the ballet and the theater. And the offices are going in too, which is another area.
I see.
So, which we're hoping the Cultural Council will come to that.
That would be wonderful
That's what
if they can. It sounds like getting the funds together is kind of the main hurdle. Other than that, everybody wants to see it move forward.
Yeah.
So, on the topic of the Tannery Art Center, why do you think that's such an important project? Why do you think that's so vital?
The whole project? Or
Yeah, the whole project.
do you want to say first?
Sure, I'll say so. I can say something. I think the vitality of that is it's concentrating on the culture of the people and the community of the people in a city, and it when people have their time off from their weekly commitments work-wise, they really want to I think they really yearn for interaction, and a way to do that would be to come and visit artists in various forms that are expressing those ideas. I think basically, art is generally expressing a communication, an essence of communication in their work. So people are looking for that, and when they go and find that, they find out that artists are expressing those things in various forms of integrating a community, finding a place where people can hang out and relate and connect and talk about things that are important to them, and learn how to communicate with one another again. And that is it's basically a lesson in lessons in finding out how we can listen and learn how to speak and be listened to. People can find out how they can properly communicate with one another, and I think that's what it brings. And it brings it can bring in on a monetary level. It can bring in finances for a city. The city investing in that. People want to buy art. They pay for music. They pay for art.
Especially in a tourist town like this, where you have wealthy people coming from other places because it's such a nice place to visit. I guess kind of a secondary question to that is what makes art so important? I mean, so maybe somebody who is really cynical would look at the Tannery Art Center and say, well, why should we spend a bunch of taxpayer money on just so some people can make some paintings, like or sculptures or whatever? What's so important about that?
We were talking about this today.
Yes.
We had a lot of press coverage for this whole project of bringing the arts into an area in Santa Cruz and making it a central meeting place for artists to be and for people to see us working and to come and buy, participate in classes. Was to me it was an amazing support of cultural art and values. Mm-hmm. And we studied in Florence, and we lived there, mm-hmm. For several years. And we were able to immerse ourselves in a culture that loved the arts, mm-hmm. that it was so much a part of who they were.
You think more so than in the United States in general?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
It was incredible. I mean, we were talking Florence and Venice and Rome, and, so and
that's where the Renaissance happened.
Everybody
Yeah.
loves those places that
Right,
go
right.
there, and so you come back here and you realize that those values are not as high on a priority list. Although they are, I mean, there's lots of support for the arts, but this project to support artists and make sure they stay in Santa Cruz County, they can afford to live here, mm-hmm. and was to me an incredible movement toward supporting arts and culture in our society, mm-hmm. and so to be in the middle of that feels like a renaissance. It mm-hmm. feels like that's what we're participating in. Mm-hmm. And we're starting our own business, okay? It is a big step for us. Getting one of those art studios and paying that rent every month on top of all of our other bills.
Right.
And creating money from that, so that becomes, our livelihood.
Right.
Is a huge risk for us and a big project.
Oh, absolutely.
But we're willing to do it because that's all we've done. We trained for years to do this.
The big gamble that every working artist in our society has to make is, how much of my time, effort, resources, finances can I invest into this, and if I do, is it going to turn into something that the work of the artistic production itself ends up being something that you can support yourself financially. What I've really noticed with arts in the U.S. is I think that we're a very money-centered society, and so if you can make a Hollywood movie that's going to make somebody a few $1 million, then that's considered to be valuable piece of artwork. But I think as artists that we recognize that art has a value that extends beyond its price tag that's
absolutely.
attached to it. Would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, well, I was thinking about we had the press coverage and we ended up getting in the paper, and one of my sculptures even got on the front and on the Sunday paper, which I was so happy to see. But I looked at the comments that people had about, which I didn't take personal at all.
Right.
But many of them, I was surprised to see how upsetting people were about the project and
Upset that it was even happening.
That
Or
you
that
know,
money was
why
being
do these
spent on
artists
it.
get to have this, and you know, there's so many other things that we can spend our money on, but why not invest in people who have something that they're passionate about doing, and that you know that they're going to get up and do something. I mean, lots of us there, we went through a process of even getting into the space.
Yeah.
And you know, this is, you know, we met in Florence and we went to school together. This is our whole life, what we're doing right now. And to be given a chance like this is just invaluable. I mean, we really appreciate it. I don't think everyone, you know, is not exactly the same in situation as we are. There's other artists too, but every single story down there is really, really an incredible one, and we're all striving for creating art and having it relate to our culture. So
Yeah, I think I when it comes to someone who being really critical and not approving of this money spent in this way, they just their reasoning is like, oh, there's a lot of people struggling. Why can't we just help, people who perhaps not artists? And I can understand that point of view, but the thing that I find important that when I think about that deeply, I really think how really important it is that art is expressing ideals that humanity can move in a direction toward in creating more abundance in many forms, food-wise, energy-wise, and there's a book called It's the Artist's Way, and they express how artists have been, the precursors of movements, the precursors of art and physics. That's the book, and they've been like the precursors to technologies happening, and
movement and change.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and the Art and Physics is a really excellent book that I totally recommend, and specifically, it talks about art being the precursor to kind of a ground shift happening in the sciences. So the really prominent example of that being you compare Picasso to Einstein, like Picasso's Cubism predated Einstein. Einstein comes out and says, well, there might be more spatial dimensions than just the three up, down, side to side, back and forward that we perceive. And so that begs the question, well, what would it look like to look at an object from multiple perspective vantage points simultaneously, like if you were some sort of fourth dimensional creature? And that turns out to be something that Picasso was exploring ideas along those lines in artwork before Einstein, and that in fact the entire sort of movement toward Impressionism and what's the name of the art movement? The modern abstract art is very much in line with sort of the paradigm shift in our understanding of how the world works that happened with Einstein and with quantum physics.
Oh yeah, that was an incredible. So that book really changed the way I thought about myself. I mean, the one thing about choosing art, I grew up in the South, and my parents wanted me to get a real job. Okay, so art was not valued highly.
Well, and that's it right there. Like, why is being an artist not considered a quote unquote real job in our society? What creates that perception?
If we look at the Renaissance, artists were equal with architects and masons, and it was an important job
well,
to
often
have.
Often they were the same people. I mean, Michelangelo was an architect. So.
Right.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, and he was one. He was a. they worked with stone. They were stone workers. His family was stone workers, and they knew stone.
Yeah.
But he was also a genius at figurative. So it was to see that, the value. I came back reading that and being in Italy. I went, this has value, and I'm going to take pride in what I do, and I'm going to take it serious.
Absolutely.
And we've met along the way so many artists that are super successful. They make money.
Right.
They have good lives, and thought. This whole idea of thought creating what is. That's what it really is all about. Art and physics and an artist changing movement is we come in and we create the thought, and then the whole group is introduced to the thought, and then as a group we change things.
The entirety of our civilization, like anything that exists that humans created that doesn't just naturally occur on itself within the natural world, is something that happened as a result of the thought and an idea that somebody had.
Yeah, just one small,
I like what you're saying. I don't know if it's even perhaps a person's idea. That's where it kind of births from, but it's almost like a yearning of what people are searching for, and then an artist is perhaps someone who can channel that or pick up on what people are looking for by really trying to just see what's happening with people, and then people are hungry for something, a change, or they want to move in another way. And I think perhaps an artist is someone who's observant and who's able to pick up on where humanity wants to move, in a direction it wants to move in.
That makes sense. I think I think artists are very much look for patterns, and if you can graphically illustrate, hey, there's a pattern going on here in a way that simplifies it, perhaps into like a symbolic language that somebody can look at and have an immediate understanding of that. I think that gets us closer to really having a more in-depth understanding of what it is to be human, what the human condition is. And in fact, a lot of the artists that I admire the most, I'll put another plug in for Akira Kurosawa, the 20th century Japanese film director, because he's somebody who really stands out in my mind. Every time I've ever watched a film by Kurosawa, I've walked away feeling like I just learned something really profound about what it is to be human. Okay, so that's a great thing about being an artist. And so just really quick, I want to make sure I get this in before we run out of footage on the camera here. Okay. Your business is called The Specialized Sculptor, and that's related to the Tannery Art Studio. People can look for that online at lisasilas.com and jonathanchorn.com. Well, to get back to you guys, what's next? What's the direction you're moving in now creatively?
Okay, well, we've started the Specialized Sculptor, and it is it encompasses everything that we do. We train.
Is it still recording? Yeah.
We train to do figurative sculpture, and we incorporated foundry work. We specialize in helping people do their foundry work, so we can do all the different parts of doing the bronzing process.
Except the pouring of the bronze and the dipping of the wax before the bronze.
Which we send out, and we could work with other people. But we're really good at the details. We've been trained to see, so well. We can really see details that a lot of people can't really see naturally, because we've spent hours and hours to learn how to do it.
Working on refining that skill.
And
absolutely.
And then we're doing workshops for figurative sculpture.
Oh, that sounds really exciting.
Yeah.
Teaching figurative sculpture, portraiture.
So tell us more about
models.
that. Like, do you have a schedule for it?
Yeah,
Is
we
it-
have a class coming up in August.
No, not August. October
October
21st.
October 21st.
First, that would be right before my birthday, actually.
Oh,
Okay.
happy birthday then. Well, yeah, and the class is a 4-day workshop, and it's intensive work, 6 hours a day with a model, and lots of instruction, and we'll be working in oil clay.
Yeah.
So, and it's a fun. If you love the figure and you want to learn to sculpt, you will get to have you'll take something home for sure.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, and we love it. I mean, it is the thing that we
Yeah.
just love to do.
To teach, you mean?
We
teach
love to
and
teach, to do, to talk
sculpt.
about.
Right.
To
To
sculpt,
sculpt all
yeah.
the above.
It's that communication, you know. So looking at someone, sculpting someone is just another sense of communication which we'd like to encourage in our society, because people have been, you know, pushed away. Everybody just wants to be heard, really, and they have a hard time listening, it seems like, in our society. So it would be nice to have a dialogue taking place, and that's our way. Working with the model is that dialogue between the model and the clay, and us doing it.
Well, and then it's also, the art is also